I really want to ask you something that is just totally personal for me. I graduated seminary in 1981. When you graduate in the Reform movement, I basically had two choices. I could apprentice myself to some other rabbi, or I could take a small shul and work, as a
on your
rabbi
own, yeah?
On my own. My theology at that point, I was still pretty much a Buddhist in a tallis, and there was no synagogue that was advertising for a Buddhist rabbi, right? So I started my own, and that's what I decided to do. I moved to Florida, Miami, and I set up my own synagogue. So I'm settling into Miami, and I meet a very lovely rabbi who tells me that you come to town once a year. You come to town and you teach, but only rabbis at the Federation. So I go. I say, how can I not, try this? And I'm totally enthralled. I mean, now I'm falling in love really with you and the teaching, and this is what I'm looking for. The authentic Jewish teaching that I was missing, that I thought I found in Buddhism, but here, now it was working with my own DNA, my own upbringing. Now it wasn't, I didn't have to learn Sanskrit and Japanese and terms that were alien to me. I was hearing the same truth in my own language, much more powerful. That went on for a couple of years. Then I decided I needed more of you, and I wanted to become a chassid. I had an opportunity to be a monk at a monastery under Sasaki Roshi. He invited me. I said no, I didn't want to do that, but now I was ready and I wanted to be a chassid. So I brought you to my shul. You called it the 9th day of Hanukkah, because it was just after Hanukkah. Mm-hmm. We had a dinner, you were going to give a talk, but you and I went for a walk. And we're walking in the suburbs, and so this is where it gets emotional for me. I didn't think it was going to get that emotional, but okay. So we're walking together, and I want to ask you if I can be a chassid. So I did. I didn't expect this. And you said no. I don't know if you remember. I was busted. I was blown away. I thought, he doesn't want a chassid, I just didn't expect that at all. And you said no, and then you said, that's not our relationship. But we didn't have a relationship. I came to your seminar. You said, that's not a relationship. You said, sometimes I'll teach you, and sometimes you'll teach me. But I had nothing to teach. I was just a couple years out of seminary, just, green at this. And that was the end of the conversation. We walked back, we went in, you did your thing, and you went home, back to Philadelphia then.
The story isn't finished.
Well, there's more to the story. So the first question, and I want to finish my end of it, how I remember it.
Yeah.
So I never felt comfortable going into I didn't feel invited into the inner circle of renewal. Now we're going to flip 20 years later. I wanted something, and I asked you I needed something, and then you gave me an assignment, and then you said, come back and we'll work out something. And so a year later, I met you again at Alat Chaim, then in New York, Woodstock. And you didn't mention a thing. We were there for a week. And I thought, no, he's forgot. So the whole week goes by, and now it's Friday. It's Thursday night, and you send somebody to see me. And you said that he was a young guy. And he said, Reb Zalman wants to see you. It was dawn on Friday. So I go to the house where you're staying. You gave me a certificate saying, basically, if you had been one of my teachers at HUC, when I graduated, you would have signed my smicha. And you gave me a signature on a separate thing. And that was it. That's exactly what I wanted. But then you did this holy rascal thing, which I didn't want, and pulled the rug out from under me and said, okay, now you have to be a Rebbe. And I started crying then. Still crying now. Didn't want it then, and I told you that, but you said I had no choice. Didn't know what to do with it then. Don't know what to do with it now. And you went through this, you did some teaching, which I barely understood at that point because I was so emotionally wrought. And you did this beautiful blessing where you invoked your lineage from the Baal Shem Tov up to you, and then included me in your, your shalshel, your chain of lineage. The whole time I'm just a basket. You're holding me up. I'm just a basket case. And when I left, I don't know what you want to call it, but that terrible emotion that was pouring out of me lasted for another 48 hours. Probably the most intense 48-hour encounter with the divine that I've ever had. And it shifted everything about what I know about reality and God, and it was very, very powerful. So here's my question. Why did you say no when I asked you to be a chassid? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Because I keep waiting for a letter in the mail saying, to whom it may concern, I made a huge mistake. Please don't think you're a Rabbi. Send me back this big certificate that you gave me for that too. So why did you say no in the first place? And then 20-something years later, you decided to just sort of jump to the other end of the spectrum and say, okay, now it's your turn to be Rabbi. So do you remember that? You do remember. Okay, well, that was my first.
But there is a but.
Okay.
Eve can be a good witness that I don't remember sometimes why and what comes out of me.
Yeah, good.
And I think, I don't believe, there's some people who have their awareness fully conscious and deliberate. I don't have it that way. And rascal is someone who doesn't even know himself was cooking. But I did have the sense that that which goes with Hassid really didn't fit your soul. You're an atzmai, you're really on your own. And that's what's so wonderful. I loved what you did with the scripture interpretation, the Pirkei Avot that you did. All of which, and when I had to say something about, what's this Rami Shapiro about, I would say he's our Taoist Rebbe. Because that's how you see it and that's how you do it. And I think it's a wonderful contribution. Nobody could have, how would I say, nobody could have written a curriculum for Rami to be Rami.